When you think of some of the greatest League of Legends players of all time, you think about players like Faker, Doinb, Showmaker, Uzi, and Chovy, and the list goes on. Hype 1v1s, mechanical outplays, 1v5 pentakills, these are the things that often come to mind when thinking about the best of the best. Mechanical menaces that use their raw skill at the game to lead their teams to victory. But what if I told you that the most important skill for a League of Legends player to learn wasn't mechanics at all? How's it going, everyone? My name is Monkoloko. I'm a Master Kennen One Trick, and today we're going to be talking about what I believe to be the most important skill in all of League of Legends, and that is wave management. Before we get into what wave management actually is, we're first going to talk about why it's important, especially if you're a top laner. I want you to think about some of the worst matchups for your specific champion. I'll be using Kennen as my example in this video, but you can use any champion you'd like. Think about champions like Aurelia, Jace, maybe Yorick or Malphite. Maybe if you're a mid lane Kennen player, you think of champions like Azir, Victor, or Syndra. What do all of these champions have in common that give Kennen such a hard time? While individual interactions and matchups may play a small part, the main thing I want you to focus on is who's in control of the wave. Who's pushing, who's getting pushed in, who gets the first recall, who has lane priority, who sets up dives and roams. Typically, whoever controls the minion wave in any given matchup can be classified as winning. Now there are definitely exceptions to this rule, and I'm sure some of you even thought of a few as I said that, but generally speaking, the player who controls the wave controls the lane. Aurelia versus Kennen is a great example of this. Even in a range versus melee matchup, Kennen is at a disadvantage. Aurelia has all the tools needed to easily manipulate the wave state from level 3 onwards. Aurelia decides when to push, when to freeze, and when to recall. She wins the matchup not only due to her sustained mobility, but she wins it through controlling the wave. Now that we've explained a little bit about why all of this matters, we're going to look at how it works. Starting from level 1, minion waves meet in the middle of the lane. This is what's called a neutral wave state. Neither side is pushing, and neither side is getting pushed in. Minions have a bit of a random element when left alone like this for a long time, but in a normal laning phase, this rarely ever matters. Generally speaking, if the minion count is even, and the wave is in the middle of the lane, it will stay there. But watch what happens when we throw just one auto attack out. This one small auto attack causes our minions to slowly overtake the enemies, causing what we call a slow push. Slow pushers are exactly what they sound like, causing our minion wave to slowly push forward into the enemy's territory, until eventually it reaches the tower. When a minion wave reaches the tower, this is what we call a crash. Our minions crash into the enemy's tower and slowly die. Why would we want to crash our minion wave? Well, doing so causes the enemy to become stuck under their tower for a bit, being forced to last hit the minions or fall behind in gold. It also opens up our options here. Since there are no minions for ourselves to last hit, there are a few things we can do from here. First, we can recall. Again, since there are no minions for us to last hit, there's no pressure to really stay in lane. Recalling after crashing the third wave is what we call a cheetah recall, and if you watch my videos at all, you know that I love my cheetah recall. This allows us to recall, buy a low-cost item like a Doran's Blade, Dark Steel, or Coal, and come back to lane a little bit stronger than our opponent. Second, we can go for tower plating or poke our enemy and try to deny them last hits, furthering our lead. Third, we can invade with our jungler, set up vision, contest Scuttle, or Rift Herald, or even steal away camps from the enemy. Lastly, we can go for a dive, and this is a bit of a risky option compared to the previous three, but can pay off immensely if done correctly. Now that we understand what a crash is, what happens afterwards? A wave state like this is what we call a bounce. After our minions die to the enemy tower, the minion wave is even again. 6 minions on both sides, but it's on the enemy's side of the lane, so it'll stay there, right? Let's see what happens. The minion wave actually pushes towards us now, creating a slow push for the enemy. After crashing our minion wave into the enemy tower, it now bounces towards us. A good way to think of this is that the minions are good underdogs. If pushed to one side of the lane, they're going to slowly push back towards the other side if left untouched. Why would we want to bounce our wave, now giving lane control over to the enemy? Well, bouncing is another form of controlling the wave, and brings a few advantages along with it. First, by allowing minions to slowly push towards us, it reduces our risk of getting ganked. Second, it exposes the enemy to the danger of our own jungler, as they will now be slow pushing into our territory. The enemy minions are killing ours at a quicker rate, meaning that if they don't crash their own minion wave, they'll be missing out on gold and EXP from our dying minions. And what happens when a minion wave reaches one side of the lane? Well, if there are equal amounts of minions on both sides, the wave would push towards the opposite direction. But the enemy has more minions than us, so now what happens? As I said before, if a minion wave is even, it will push towards the opposite side. The exception to this rule would be if one wave is significantly larger than the other. Generally, if a wave has about 4 or more additional minions over the other, it will push regardless of its position in the lane. This exception can be used to our advantage to set up what's called a freeze. It might sound like a lot to take in, but it's actually quite simple. These additional minions are going to keep attacking ours until there's nothing left. Now we could allow the enemy minion wave to crash, but what if we stop it right here? By killing just enough minions to maintain a 4 or 5 minion deficit, also called thinning the wave, we can keep the wave here basically forever, denying gold and EXP until someone from the enemy team crashes the minion wave. Or we break it ourselves by choosing to push. Cannon minions can be a bit tricky to freeze with, but you can discount them as about 3 or 4 minions on their own. Freezing is relatively safe and exposes the enemy to danger from your jungler if they choose to walk up this far in the lane, and freezes can be used to set up jungle ganks while also allowing you to last hit safely. All of what we've just gone over should give you a good understanding of minion wave manipulation in lane, but what happens when turrets fall? Well, essentially, if a minion wave is positioned behind a turret, it's frozen there until it is influenced by an enemy champion. Again, there are a few exceptions and variables, but just knowing this, you'll have to be careful about pushing too far into enemy territory, or else the minion wave gets stuck there, and you'll be exposing yourself to danger on the enemy side of the map. You can still set up slow pushes, and a freeze is basically guaranteed, but bounces won't have the same effect as they do with the outer towers. This video could easily go on for 45 minutes as there are tons of variables, exceptions, and examples I'd love to talk about, but just with what we've gone over today, I hope many of you have gained a good understanding of wave manipulation and why it's important. I'm sure I've missed at least a few things, but overall, with just this knowledge, you should be able to look at a wave and understand, oh, that's slow pushing, the enemy's freezing here, or I've just crashed my wave, now what can I do? And overall feel better and more confident about your laning. Anyway, that's all from me for today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something. If you enjoy videos like these, please let me know in the comments. So thank you all for watching, like, subscribe, and all that stuff, and I'll see you later.